Good evening. My name is Wayne Moorehead. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. I lived here up until 1998 when I moved to Arizona with my wife and daughter for my wife to further her education. Her name is Dr. Barbara Moorehead. I have one daughter. Her name is Christmas de LeBlanc. I have two grandchildren, Jeremy and Calla Jane. Those are my heart. I love my grandchildren to death. Now I realize why my parents treated my daughter the way they did and ignored me so much after she came around. So my dad was famous for that, but having your grandchildren around you is the best, you know. My dad is Roy Moorehead from here in St. Thomas, and my mom is Theodora Moorehead. And I have two brothers. I have one brother, one sister, Rochelle and Roy. We're small, but then the extended family goes really big. You know, all the Mooreheads, the Sibley's, the Berries up here on the north side. So my family has become, it's very, very big. I have the whole village up here has been taking care of me from the time I was small. We eventually ended up in Louisiana, a small little town called Alexandria, Louisiana, where we've been living for the past 16 years. I miss St. Thomas quite a bit. I wish to come home more than I do. Being from the Virgin Islands, this is home, this is paradise to me. They call it America's paradise, but it's just home. And I'm so happy when I'm here. You have so many friends and family members, and just, as I said, I was telling someone, I just wanted to breathe in the air at the airport once I got here, just because I miss this place so much. You know, I was a little anxious about coming because of my amputations, but it worked out fine. I had a great time this past week, and I'm gonna be back a lot more than I was before.
I'm the big brother. I always thought I was the favorite. Wayne felt that he was the favorite, so we often squabbled, fought over who was the favorite. Little did we know that Rochelle actually was the favorite.
Any day now would be good.
Growing up, anytime I did something, Wayne wanted to tag along. Played sports, Wayne wanted to tag along. And you know, when you're the big brother and you're 3 years older than he is, and you're 14 and he's 11, you didn't want an 11-year-old playing with you when you were 14. So, but we kept Wayne close. We spent a lot of time with our family members, with Joseph Sibley, Leo Sibley, and it was playing sports, doing stuff around the house. That's some of the fondest memories I have of Wayne.
Hey, how you doing? You good?
Yeah.
You're gonna leave me hanging now? Just give me a hug real quick. Hey, good to see you, man. My social life hasn't changed very much. I try to still go out with my friends. I hang out. So I would like to say it's the same as it was before. It just takes me a little bit longer to get there, and we have to plan a little bit more. Okay, where we're going, is it accessible? If it's accessible, is there enough room inside? Do I need to wear my legs? Can I bring my chair? What I need to do? So it takes a little bit more work to get there, but I'm still going out, enjoying myself, having a good time. My friends some of them have bought ramps to put in their house, so when I come over, I can just drive up in their house. I keep an extra ramp in my van for that same reason. So I just try to do what I did before, as normally as I can. Take it over there. How you doing, man?
Good to see you. I want you to do something for me.
Yeah.
Remember Proverbs 3:5 and 6.
Okay.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart.
Yeah.
Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him. He's going to direct your path.
Well, let me tell you something now.
Chapter 3, verse 5 and 6.
After this, I had some long conversations about what needed to happen to my life. So I'm very pleased of where I'm going. I'm very pleased in the way it's been going. So that's very good. That's very good.
God is good, man.
Yeah, God is good. God is good.
Strong, and God will guide you, man.
I try in. You know, I try in my best, man.
Great things he has done, you know. He's still alive. And
I still alive.
Among us. Yeah.
That's it. I am among the best.
Among us.
I am among the best people they have. So
God is good, brother. Yes.
a couple of my friends came out, just a few, to see me and say hi. I saw some of them last week, but I stayed over an extra 5 days because I just don't think I got to see enough people, and everybody was asking. So I came out tonight, and a bunch of my friends are inside, people I've known from the time I was in elementary school. So just to hang out and say hi, I'm so grateful for everything they've done for me over the past 3 years. You know, the prayers, the well wishes, just the call sometimes when you're down. It's always good to have someone to talk to. So, you know, and people reach out to my dad, my mom, my sisters, Joanne, everybody reaches out. So I want to say thank you to everyone. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. Say hi and I love you, Wayne, but I also want to thank all of them. If, you know, that's the reason I'm out here tonight.
When Wayne was a child, he was a pain. And he would always do the wrong thing just to get somebody laughing. That's it. That was just it.
He was always full of himself, spoke his mind, and he has proven that he has always been a fighter. When Wayne was approximately 9 or 10 years old, it was diagnosed that he had Hodgkin's disease, which is cancer of the lymph nodes. Wayne was sent to New York to Sloan Kettering Hospital, where he spent about 2.5 years, and he was finally treated, and the cancer went into remission.
Very loving, helpful when he wanted. I love him, and I get emotional.
I got sick in July of 2018. I woke up we went out for dinner, and I came home and I was feeling really bad. The next day I couldn't go to work, and my wife said, well, in 16 years you've never refused to go to work. So we're going to the hospital, we're going to the doctor.
So I remember it was a Friday evening. I got a call that said Wayne didn't feel well and he needed to go to the hospital or the emergency room. The information that I got was that he couldn't get to the hospital, so he ended up going to an urgent care center.
Earlier that day, she had called to say that he wasn't feeling well, and she was going to take him to the walk-in clinic. And I recall when he got released from the walk-in clinic, we were all talking, Barbara, Christmas, and I, and Anibal, and we were all joking about, oh, he would be fine the next day, he just needed to sleep it off, because they had said that he had a stomach bug.
You know, I was in there shivering, I was cold, it was terrible. But they couldn't find anything wrong with me, and they sent me home. It wasn't 4 or 5 hours later, I was getting worse. I started to turn blue. My feet were turning blue, my hands were already blue, and my wife decided we're going to the emergency room.
I found out that Wayne was sick when Barbara called me around midnight one night to say that she had taken him to the emergency room. So when Barbara called, it was apparent that he was critically ill. So right away, I tried to make arrangements for someone to watch the kids so that Mom and I could go to Louisiana to visit him.
And within 10 to 15 minutes of being into the emergency room. I was intubated. My heart started shutting down. I explain it like this. You take a can of tomato soup and pour it out. You see how thick it is? That's what it was like for my blood to be pumping through my body at the time. So it was a shock, and it happened so fast that nobody knew what caused it. Nobody knew what it was. Eventually they said, okay, he's in septic shock. And that's when they tried to start finding the cause of the septic shock so that they could treat it.
They had moved him from the emergency room to ICU. And it wasn't looking good. So Mama and I got on a plane and went to Louisiana. And he was in the ICU and he was sitting up. They had him propped up, not sitting up, lying with his head propped up in the bed. And he probably was heavily sedated. So he didn't really know we were there right away. And his hands and feet were discolored. He just did not look well.
I got a call that said Wayne was in the hospital and he wasn't doing well. First question I asked my sister Rochelle, she was the one who called me, was, do I need to come? She hesitated. That's all it was for me. I said, I will be there. I got the information Saturday. I couldn't fly out on Sunday. Couldn't get a flight. So Monday morning, I left St. Thomas and went straight to the hospital in Alexandria.
It was so strange to see him in that situation. I mean, when he was younger, he was sick, but I really stayed in St. Thomas when he was in New York and he was getting treatment for cancer. So I hadn't ever seen him like that, really. So it was a big surprise.
When I got there, I saw Wayne lying in a bed with tubes all over him, tape and tubes, and he was out of it. It was at that time that I realized how bad things could potentially get. I was scared. I was scared for him. But I think that initially I said to myself, Wayne's got this. You got it. That's what I said to myself to calm me down.
And it took a while. Luckily for me, I don't remember much of it. My family had to make all the decisions. They knew what was going on, but I just don't remember much of it. So that's one of the good things, you know, I don't have to have that trauma or those memories all the time. So we were in Alexandria, Louisiana. We left Alexandria, Louisiana, and we got air flighted to Ochsner, which is a great medical facility in New Orleans.
Well, when we first got to Louisiana, he continued to deteriorate, and the doctors there wanted to send him to Ochsner. And so he was airlifted. I think the first night or the second night or second day that we were there, he was airlifted to Ochsner. And when we first got there, at first they were trying to figure out what was wrong, what made him sick, so that they could treat him properly. And I recall asking, my main concern was why his hands and legs were cold and discolored.
But then the next 2 days I heard that he had an 11% chance of surviving. Of course, I don't know much about what that means, but on its face, he has an 11% chance of being around tomorrow. And that cut me deep.
But I have to interject a little story here about my trip from one hospital to the next. So I get picked up in a helicopter, because, you know, life-threatening, this is emergency. We have to get him to an infectious disease doctor. We get up in the air and we're leaving, and the pilot comes on over, and the medic that was in there with me says, well, the pilot just told us we have to stop for gas. So we have to take a 20-minute detour, fuel up, fuel up the helicopter, and then go back down. So, I mean, what else could happen, you know? What else is out there for me? But, you know, back to telling what happened, I ended up being at Ochsner for 5 weeks roughly. They couldn't get it. They didn't know what was wrong. They couldn't figure out why I was continuing to have necrosis. They knew it was the septic shock, but they couldn't figure out what caused it and why it was happening. And I just got sicker and sicker.
So I wanted to know from the doctors what that meant. Would the heat come back to his hands and feet? So they weren't talking about amputations initially. In fact, I remember asking the infectious disease doctor, you know, what would happen if the hands and feet didn't get warm, or the color didn't return, the blood didn't flow to them again. And she said he'd probably just lose his fingertips.
We eventually left, and we got in an ambulance, and we drove 4 hours to Houston. And we ended up at Methodist hospitals in Houston.
We were there for days, slept in the hospital, ended up getting a hotel room when I arrived, but didn't need it because we were in the hospital. Slept, ate, everything in the hospital. I remember washing up in the bathroom in the hospital because I didn't want to go anywhere. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there when he came around. I wanted to be there. I wanted him to know I was there for him.
And within the first 2 days of being in their ICU, they had taken me off of all the drugs, nothing, no more morphine, nothing at all. And I started getting better right away. Because then they started to realize, okay, now we know what to treat, what to do. But by that time, my limbs, they were already gone. You know, they were past the point of salvage.
The relief to know that he woke up. I remember as he woke up, he was mumbling something. You remember, he had tubes in his mouth, but he was mumbling something. He was mumbling something. Nobody was really listening to what he was saying. So he said, "Take these damn tubes out of my mouth." The sigh of relief, as that was Wayne. That's my brother, that's Wayne.
So that when he did have his amputations and he lost both hands and all of his legs, that was a huge surprise. And I recall that when he had he had 2 surgeries for the amputations. And when they did the legs, I recall that I was the one who was waiting for the doctors to come out. I think Barbara and Christmas had gone to get something to eat because it was a long surgery. You never know when the doctor's going to come back. So I was the only one there when he came back. And when he said that he had to amputate above the knee, that was a shock. That was unexpected.
We were hoping for what they call an AKA, a below the knee amputation, but it didn't happen. So that's why I ended up being a bilateral, you know, which is 300% more energy it takes to walk than someone, just a regular person. So I have to put out 300% more energy when I walk. And the hands were the same thing. You know, she cut them off at the wrist. She left them nice and long for me. And I used what's called body power prosthetics. So I just control these with my back and my forearms. That's what started my whole journey to where I am today, back home in St. Thomas. Before I had my surgery, and my amputations, I was a truck driver. I was just a good old truck driver driving on the roads. I started driving here in St. Thomas at DEFCON. I worked out there for a long time. I worked as a dispatcher, I worked as a laborer, I did everything out there. And then I moved on to start my own business with a concrete pump truck. I did that for a little while here, so I loved being around the heavy equipment and outdoors, things of that nature. You know, we ended up moving, and I just went to the States and started driving again. So I've driven all over the country, into Canada, down into Mexico as a truck driver. So for the past, since we moved there, I worked for one company for 16 years. So I had a pretty good feel for what being out on the road is like. I'm an avid cook. I love to cook. So one of the things that was difficult for me was learning how to cook again. I keep these surgical rubbers on my ends of my hook because as a quad, it really helps me when I fall down to get up, but it also makes gripping of things a lot easier also. So what I do is I grab my big old chef knife here, set it down and hook into it just like this. Real simple, real easy. I have it so that it's like supporting on the back so that when I push down with it, I can get a good cut. So, and then it's real simple now. I just hold the sausage and cut. You know. Let's take a look at it and see. Oh, I like that a lot. This is how I like my jambalaya. Whatever there was to do outside, I did. I loved doing landscape work around the house. You know, my wife comes up with these ideas and just says, "Oh, Wayne will do it." So she just picks projects and I figure it out. That's how we've worked it out over the past, couple of years. So it's been pretty good. It was spending time with my grandkids, just being an all-around outside kind of guy. That's what my basic life was all about, was being outdoors and doing a lot of things with family and friends. I'm so happy to be back here in St. Thomas. It's been, 5 years now, I think? And I just felt so good, 4 years, felt so good coming back home. Being able to drive down the hill here, coming to Magens Bay, just seeing everything and smelling a little bit of the mangrove, looking around on the beach, seeing everyone. It's been such a blessing for me to have this ability to get back to the Virgin Islands and share my experiences with all my friends and family. The journey that I'm on now, from the surgery, after my surgeries, I've gone to TARE Herman Memorial, which is Texas Institute of Rehab and Research, which is one of the best rehabilitation facilities in the country. And it has been, I call it my 9 to 5. You know, I went there right after I had my surgeries. I spent 2.5 weeks the first time, and I learned how to do simple things, turn over in a bed, because I couldn't turn over on my own. I learned how to put on my shirt, because everything took a lot of work and I had a lot of help. And going there and being with an OT and a PT, they taught me how to just do simple things. Use my hands without hooks and pick it up and pick things up, learn to brush my teeth, learn to put on deodorant, things of that nature. Everyday tasks, I call ADLs, activities of daily living. So I had to learn all of those activities over again. And so I did that for 2.5 weeks. And then I did outpatient. I'm still doing outpatient a 1.5 years later, but I did outpatient and I practiced walking. I'm learning to walk. I got my first set of prosthetics for my lower extremities, which are called stubbies, which are really low. You are only about 1 inch off of the ground, but it trains your body and how to get around, how to maneuver, to feel the pressure of being in them. And I've progressed over the past 2 years now to have taller legs or microprocessor knees, which are what I usually have on now. But as of when I go back, my everyday routine is I live in Louisiana still with my wife and daughter, with my wife, and I go back to Houston where my daughter is to do my physical therapy. So I drive 4 hours each way. And I do my physical therapy 3 days a week. And then I spend the rest of the time with the grandkids. And then I drive back home on the weekends to be with my wife. Some people might think that this is such a serious thing that happened to me and that I shouldn't be doing all of the things that I do and stuff like that, and they get so nervous and scared around me or for me, but I've done so much and I've had so many opportunities since my amputations that it's been great. Less than a year after my amputations was my 25th wedding anniversary and my niece's graduation from college. So we had no idea what we were gonna do. Everyone was like, oh, Uncle Wayne is not good, he's sick. And my niece told her mom all she wanted to do was go on a cruise with her uncle for her graduation. So I made it work. Plus, it was my 25th anniversary. So we went on a cruise to Europe. We spent 7 days and then we stayed in Barcelona for another couple of days, which was very interesting. It's just different worlds, different aspects of things. I've also done a fundraiser for one of the local schools in Alexandria. They called it Dancing with the Stars, just local people, from the community, the police captain, lawyers, doctors. So they asked my wife and I to come out and do it. And we said, sure. Everybody thought I was just gonna be in my wheelchair, which I came out in my wheelchair and my wife was dancing around me. But then at one point I stopped, jumped down out of my wheelchair, stood up, they realized I had on my legs, my stubbies, and I was just dancing and having a good time with my wife and holding on. So I still do experience as much of life as I can. Along this journey, and you have to be positive. So you can't do it without help, and I'm very lucky I have my family around to help me. But I want to be the new normal, the new Wayne 2.0. And I realized that to get there, I have to learn to do things differently. I have to learn how to crawl up and down steps when I don't have my legs on. I have to learn how to get in and out of a vehicle. I have to learn how to, get down on the beach. I have to learn how to eat. It takes a process to pick up a fork and eat and do things like that. Some people don't. They get shut in, they don't want to be out there, but I'm proud to be an amputee. I like it. It's me now, so there's nothing to go back to. They're never coming back. I can't miss them anymore. They're never coming back. So that's what I've been doing. That's how I look at it. I'm always thinking positively. I'm always pushing out there. Now, not every day you wake up and it's all sunshine and stuff. There's some days that you're down. Some days you don't feel like doing anything, but at the end of the day, I know I have to get up. I know I have to move forward because I plan to live to a ripe old age. And, I'm only halfway. So I still have a long journey to go on. And I'm just doing it a little bit different than most.
He doesn't like to be defeated. He's such a competitor that if he does something or if someone else does something, it doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter what it is, he feels he's got to do it. So right now, if I tell Wayne that, hey, I gonna play basketball on the team, Wayne is gonna be looking for a way to play basketball to show me that he could do it better than me. So those things that he does now doesn't surprise me. His willpower, his strength, those are the things that make Wayne who he is.
Wayne 2.0 is truly an inspiration, not just for myself, but for so many. But for me, he's always been my big brother. He's always been protective and looked out for me and always offered a helping hand with anything I needed from him. So yeah, with amputations, you would expect that he wouldn't be able to do as much as he did before. But really, his spirit hasn't changed. He's still, you know, he's still a great person.
I mean, his love is just, Wayne he has the power, the strength to just keep going. It has never stopped him. He crawled down the steps, up the steps as normal. He never failed. He is still always looking out for somebody, making sure that everybody is happy. And there's so much to say about him, considering what he has gone through. It's just wonderful that he had that in him. And he thinks he'd stop for everybody in the street. If he sees somebody having a problem, he stops and crawl, because sometimes he can't walk. He'll go crawling to help the person when he is the one that needed help. That's Wayne.
If I had to tell people one thing about me, what I would want them to know most about me is that it's a new version of me. It's Wayne 2.0. I'm on the railroad, I'm on the tracks, I'm coming down. And if you think you're gonna stop me or get in the way to help me lift my hand, you don't need to do that. I'm on the tracks by myself, and I'm Wayne 2.0. And if you come in the way, I'm gonna run you over, because you have to push and push. And that's what I do. I'm pushing, I'm trying. I fail at a lot of things, but I just get up again and push. Everybody says I have a positive attitude. I tell them I don't see it, I'm just being me. This is who I am, what I do. So I want people to know that I'm gonna be that positive guy. I'm gonna be the one that's out there pushing and helping you and encouraging you to get up. Here's how I do it. Here's what we can do together. You fall down, you get back up, we do it together all the time. That's what we do. So we are gonna get to wherever I need to be.